Oh.
There.
Thirsty and 30.
Hi, Thirsty friends. I'm Shari, and welcome to season 2 of Thirsty and 30, the Blind Leading the Blind chat show on Smarter Love.
Hi, Shari, and hi, everyone. I am Bea. So, Shari and I have actually made the mistakes before so that you don't have to. So, we got you, ladies and gentlemen, but mostly ladies that listen to our show. We're going to be your researchers. We've done some work, right, Shari? Yeah.
Yep, we're researchers. So, hi, everybody who usually watches us. We're going to wait for more people to come in. Hi, Mom and Dad. Hello, how are you?
Always.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, so to our viewers or our listeners, we have a fun little giveaway for you guys. Follow us on Thirsty and 30 on Instagram. Comment on our live and take a photo of our live, Bea and I. We love that. And share it on your stories and type in any question that you have and we'll choose the best questions at the end of the show and we'll send you guys some shampoo from Nanu. That's great, right?
Yeah, we used it tonight. Para naman, diba?
Someone was the conditioner.
Someone was complaining her hair was dry last week. Well, we gotta amp it up.
Hi to my sister Nucci. Hello.
So Shari, tonight we're talking about, we've been doing this like mini series on egg freezing. And I think it's important that a lot of people are really curious about this experience. But tonight, it's really about a change in disposition. And on the topic that, as women, you can change your mind. Because sometimes when we make a decision, we feel like we have to stick through the whole thing. But depending on your circumstance, you can you can change your heart or your mind. So when we started the show, we wanted to offer women a really well-rounded conversation. So, hindi kayo mabudol ng pag-ibig or whatever it is that you're being scammed with. And that you can really make the best decision in your life despite, love and relationships making it really complicated at times. I don't know. Ang hirap.
Yeah. But I am super excited for our guest today, Bea. She's an amazing woman. So we have Sam O tonight. We all know her as a host, whether it be on TV, radio, or events, or her podcast. She also always looks really good. Like, I don't know. I feel like the first time I encountered her years ago until today, to me, she looks as blooming as ever. So also above all, she is a practicing Catholic who really discovered the beauty of her faith in the recent years. So let us bring in Sam O. Hi, Sam. Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh,
Welcome.
shy all of a sudden. Thank you. Thank you for that intro. I'm not used to, because I'm more used to introducing people. Like, I'm not used to being the one that's introduced. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do I even say? But like, thank you. That was lovely. Hi.
Hi and welcome.
Yeah, you look pristine. I love it.
Oh my God. I just rolled out of bed, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
Also.
Your hair looks great, girl.
Kakabangon ko lang.
Babawi rin kami from last week.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with a little icebreaker. And this is something we asked some of our guests. And the first question we asked is, what is your go-to lende or flirting move? If you have one. I always like to learn from other people and pull some tricks. I'm just kidding.
Wow. But I cannot even remember the last time I made lande somebody. I mean, I don't know about you girls, but like since the pandemic hit, have you guys been dating?
Yes.
Oh!
I just want to quit this dating. I have to say.
Through this pandemic, huh?
Yeah.
How's that going? Sorry, I know you guys just asked me a question, but I'm just like,
How's
you
it?
No,
know,
no. You can
Uh,
ask us anything.
Great. I think it's because the person that I've been making lande during the pandemic is a very, very nice man. I think that's why it's going well. But I understand why it could be such a sucky circumstance also.
uh-huh. So I mean, did you guys meet online? Because I'm sure a lot of people are doing that.
Yes, pero in 2019 pa. And then somehow we just, hello if you're listening after this. But we stayed in contact. But yeah, he's a nice person. I think that's why okay
Yeah.
siya. How about you,
And so,
Bea?
but do
Oh,
you guys
yeah?
meet up? Like, have you guys been on actual dates?
He's
Like, how?
no, he's not here, but soon it's coming.
Ah, I see, I
I'll
see,
keep
I
you.
see.
I'll keep you all posted. Don't worry. One maybe. Now
LDR,
I'm
LDR.
shy. Okay.
Yeah, what about you, Bea?
You know what? It's been I've done a lot of virtual dates, I would say.
Oh, wow. Like a Zoom
In
date?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was interesting because it was like working on the connection rather than having the temptation of physicality. And then
Uh-huh.
I think year two, is it year two now? Yeah, for COVID. That's when it
Mm-hmm.
starts to kind of wake you up a little bit that the you need to see the person face to face. So yeah, dating's been fun, but I think it's taking a toll for sure. Not just me, I think a lot of people. So, but
Yep.
if anything, I know myself more the last 1 year and a half than ever. So it's fun, but
Mm.
I would say I miss the face to face dates for sure. Sana mangyari soon. Soon.
Yeah,
Soon.
Yep.
absolutely. Mukhang namang ano, things are opening up and I mean, goodness, when I go to the mall now, ang daming tao. Like, parang walang pandemic, guys. But,
Hmm.
so, I feel like, yeah, we're gonna be heading out soon on dates and stuff like that. But sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, going back to your question, what's my landian move? I mean, I don't know, I'm pretty good at, like, putting out feelers, I think, when I like somebody.
Okay.
Um, oh my gosh, has it
What's an
been that long?
example
Like
of a feeler? Like, how do you do it?
I mean, I guess just like try and talk to them or try to make like, opportunities for us to hang out. Very like mainstream stuff, I suppose. I'm not very savvy. I'm horrible at mind games. I'm not I can't do that. So I'm pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not the most
Okay.
exciting answer, I know. But
No,
here
it's
we are.
okay. We
No,
want
it's alright.
practical. We don't want exciting anymore because I think when you're young, you're always looking for excitement. And now it's
Mm,
like the whole world
Yeah,
has slowed down. Let's stop being exciting. Let's do
I like
practical.
I like chill,
okay.
Yeah.
straightforward.
There's an idea. Yeah.
Mm.
That's cool. I'm on board.
So definitely
Okay.
make it easier for the guy. Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
the try to make it convenient? Ah, I gets. I'm gonna take down notes.
Okay, Sam, we usually have an anonymous letter, and tonight we have one from our Instagram follower. So let me read
Ooh,
it. Hi, thirsty
okay.
girls and Sam. Call me Miss Panic at the Disco. I watched your episode last week, and I'm not going to lie, I'm freaking out. I am 35 years old, and when Dr. Aubrey confirmed that my egg quality is declining, I have been in a state of panic. I am in a 5-year relationship. We are happy. He is mabait, as in super. Nobody has treated me as well as him. But here's the problem. I see no signs of marriage anytime soon. I do not know what he is waiting for. Okay, he is younger than me. He's 33 years old, but still, hindi ko gets. I've thrown him hints left and right, and voila, it's like talking to a wall. We both talked about wanting kids of our own. I told him when we met na 30 na ako and time is of the essence, but still, take his time si kuya. Help, I want to freeze my eggs, but it is so expensive. So I'm keeping that as my plan B. So my question is, how do I get him to move our relationship to the next level? Should I move on and find someone else? Or should I stay and freeze my eggs? Should I rush him? What? SOS, Miss Panic at the Disco.
Oh,
Ay,
wow.
kaka-stress.
I love how she wrote it too. Like, it's so funny. I know the situation is not funny, but how she wrote it to us made me laugh.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, do we just kind of get into it?
Yes. What
Yeah, what do you
advice would you
think,
give
Sam?
Miss Panic at the Disco?
I is having a sit down, like a serious sit down, does that count as rushing him? I mean, this is certainly something you guys can talk about as a couple. Like, this is a serious
Hmm.
thing. And if you can't talk about something like this, then, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, you should be able to talk
Yeah.
about these things without having,
Mhm.
like, without it freaking the other person out automatically. Especially after being in a relationship for 5 years and having talked about children,
Hmm.
you know? So I guess
Yeah.
for me, that would be the first step. Like, hey, there's something on my mind. It's really important to me. Can we talk about this?
Hmm.
I agree. I think if you have that conversation and he refuses to have it, then I think your plan, you should move on and maybe find somebody else should just start coming into play. Because if you're 35, you know what you want, and this guy is 33 and just won't even give you a conversation, that's a bad sign. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm.
Yeah. What do
I
you
think
think, Bea?
the reaction is telling always. Like when you have, as long as you're doing it in a very clear way, not like, oh, bringing him to every baby store. Like there's two ways women can go about it. They could either be, like they could hint too much to the point like you're not getting straight to the point, just like playing with babies, or you could go super aggressive and be like, I want a baby in this year, and that could stress
Hmm.
them out. So I feel like just sit them
Right.
down, do the mature conversation, and the reaction says a lot. So if the
Yeah.
reaction is open and accepting and they can give you somehow a timeline, then you know to proceed. But if he says he can't do it in 2 years, he can't see it in 5 years, then move
Mm-mm.
on and do what you want.
Right.
Whether you choose to not freeze your eggs or freeze your eggs, it depends really on that person
Mm.
and
Yeah.
your,
So you
yeah.
guys have been doing a series on this, the egg freezing?
Yes.
Oh,
So we wrote,
Ooh.
we started out last week with a single girl, 20s, and a doctor to kind of just someone who wants to do more social freezing. And then
What in the world is a social freezing?
like people who do it based on career or like the fear of not finding the right partner.
meaning there's no
Okay.
need for it, but you just cover your bases. Parang ganun, di ba, Bea?
Yeah,
As opposed to like,
a medical reason. So if let's say your ovaries, like whether you're going through
Or
chemotherapy or
or
something, and you need to secure. So
oh,
that's medical freezing, and then the social freezing is just based on, I guess, social pressures or
gotcha.
whatever society tells you. So we did divinely as well, and of course,
Mm.
your story is really interesting for us.
very
Again,
Mm.
interesting.
yeah.
So
So
yeah, Miss Panic at the Disco, I hope we helped you. So your first step from all three of us is have the conversation and then decide from there.
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. Good luck. There's panic at the disco. Don't panic.
Yeah.
yes.
Don't panic.
It always helps to write down what you're gonna say and then read it out in the mirror if you
Ooh.
want.
Practice it, yes.
Mhm.
Kind of like public speaking kind of thing. Okay,
Yeah.
Sam. So we'll just jump into kind of trying to get to know you. I mean, this is the first time we're kind of meeting on a kind of, what do you call this, a virtual room. So
Yeah.
just wanted to ask you a little bit on first your dating life. Nothing too crazy. Just what I guess the first thing I want to ask you is how different was your 20s, your dating life in your 20s versus to now?
I think I'm definitely a lot more intentional now. I also have a clearer, better picture of what I'm looking for and what my non negotiables are. And I stand by them. Because I think when I was in my 20s and really even into my 30s, I was operating on like whether I was attracted to somebody or not, physically, or whether it was like some sort of like, okay, maybe physically he's not like conventionally good looking, but there was just something about this person, like chemistry or something, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
Which does not make the best foundation for a relationship, but for some reason it took me a really long time to figure that out. So I was doing this, for years and kind of wondering, when a relationship would end, like, I wonder why. you know? And I
Yeah.
think as I started maturing, I realized like, okay, yeah, that's not the best way to go about figuring out whether we'd make good partners in a relationship. And then when I came into the faith, like, it became a lot clearer to me, like what I was looking for and how I was to go about it.
Hmm.
So speaking of
Yeah.
what you look for, how would you differentiate the men before, or what the qualities you liked then versus the qualities that you like now?
Yeah, so like, back then it would be, again, like I said, it would be, is there a spark? You know what I mean? This
Mm-mm.
person. Like, that was the number one thing that I was looking for. I'm
Yeah.
physically attracted to this person. Do we have good conversation? Is he funny? Is it comfortable? Like is it easy? That kind of, and these are not bad things, by the way. These are great things. But I was building a relationship off of that. And now it's more like, first, number one has to be, are we on the same page about the faith? Because my faith,
Mm-mm.
you know, dictates so much of how I live, how I prioritize things in my life, the decisions I'm going to make. And if I meet somebody and if we were to marry and start a family, how we're going to raise children and, how we're going to live and, just all of those things.
Yeah.
My faith leads into all of that. And so that's number one. And then the rest, I feel like, yeah, I'd like to be attracted to him. I'd like for him to be funny, I'd like for him to be smart, but
Hmm.
it's not really on the same level as that. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think the other things I can work out.
Mm-mm.
That's so interesting. Like having the. I mean, I'm curious about this. Would you date someone of a different religion?
That's so hard. I think that
If
would be
their
very
faith
hard.
was really strong and it's, you have common principles like there's a God, all that, but different.
Honestly, I can't see that happening.
Okay.
I just think because marriage in itself is very hard, is what I hear. I've never been married, but I
Mm-mm.
hear marriage is very difficult. And obviously there are people who make it work, but
Yeah.
ideally, like, it would be so much easier if we could just see eye to eye on that thing, which is so important. And the rest is going to be challenging as it is. And so, gosh, I honestly don't think I could.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it makes sense. It's good that it's clear now because I think there's some people, they're very clear with that. Because sometimes when you date someone, you do try to be flexible and be like, oh, I'm open to that. And then later on, you realize actually, this is not going to work out. Like some as simple as like, I like hiking, for example. And then suddenly you
Mhm.
don't like hiking like 6 months from now. And the other person's so passionate about hiking, then you're going to
Right.
clash.
And it's
Yeah.
really hard to fake something
Yeah.
that you don't believe or you don't like, That's
I'm a
exhausting.
camper. Yeah. I think it boils down to like certain non-negotiables. Yeah, because a lot of things are negotiable. I mean, nobody's
Yeah.
gonna be like, you have to have 8-pack abs or else I'm out. There are certain negotiable things. But speaking,
I know someone like that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, some couples
Be-
they come
Bea,
together.
just kidding.
Hey, I asked someone once if I needed to have abs to date him because he had abs. Hindi naman daw. So, okay lang yan. Negotiable naman.
Negotiable yan. So speaking of negotiables and non-negotiables, what are your relationship and non-negotiables other than faith? Bea, you can answer this also. I'm curious. What are your relationship
Hmm.
non-negotiables or red flags now compared to before? Bea, you
You
go
can you can
first.
start us off, Bea. Yeah.
You know what? I'm always this is hard for me because I'm a people pleaser and I actually just say yes to a lot of things. But if I were say like my ultimate red flag right now is like no intention. So I don't know. This sounds really lame, right?
No
I don't know.
intention.
No.
It's like someone doesn't put effort. Like you're trying to make it work.
Ah.
And everything to them is just so hard. I think that's a red flag. But
Oh yeah,
everything
for
else,
sure.
I haven't. Maybe being rude to my family and friends, I've gone through that where he was very aggressive to my family and friends. I thought it was like ma principio, but I think that was wrong.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there's a few, but I think those top two, for sure, are red flags. But you're gonna discover more. Like, until I die, I think I'll find them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with those. And like speaking of being rude, because I don't know, I think a lot of guys would, well, smart guys wouldn't be like rude to your family or friends like to their face when you're
Mm-mm.
dating or something. However, if he's rude to like the waiter or the help,
Yeah.
but then it's nice to everyone else, but then like, who are people who maybe can't do anything for him, he's rude to them. Like, oh, huge red
Huge.
flag. Huge.
Huge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Or maybe someone who's controlling, I guess. But then that's universal though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard
Yeah.
to not be controlling. I mean, most people have like some level of.
Certain things that they're pretty controlling about. Like, I tend to be very controlling about the bathroom. I'm very
Oh,
particular about
how?
bathrooms.
What do you
I can't,
mean?
no outside shoes in the bathroom, or else I'm gonna go like ballistic. I just like things.
Oh,
I
I
just like
don't.
it clean. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't like shoes in the house. Period. So I totally get the no shoes in the bathroom. You know?
When you share a hotel room with your friends and they don't apply that rule, and then the floor gets gray, I'm like, I'm gonna put my foot down. That's a rule. Bawal.
Oh, yeah. No, everybody out.
Yeah, bawal. No.
Yeah.
Someone did tell me that the secret to a good marriage is like either having separate bedrooms or separate bathrooms.
Bathrooms.
So,
Oh, I've heard that too.
malay mo.
Yeah.
I believe in the
also heard.
bathrooms. Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
yeah, yeah. I think that, yeah, maybe not the bedroom because obviously, like, you guys want, I mean, for me anyway, like, I would still want to sleep in the same bed and, do all that. But maybe the separate bathrooms, I can see how that could be wise advice, actually.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question on one of your interviews with Brother Bo. I was watching this and I found it really interesting that you said your faith was transactional when you first started. Like you were doing the prayers of Saint Bridget, is that? And like 15
Mhm.
prayers a day. And then the end that you wanted to request for something. And I
Mhm.
wonder if you think nowadays we, as like, whether it's women or men, we look at relationships and not only with God, but with people as transactional. It's like, you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And even with your, like a partner, you're like, if I cook for you, you better, I don't know, give me a back massage or something, or whatever people ask for nowadays. So
Yeah.
how has that changed for you? Like now, obviously you've found faith, but in the past it was like that kind of transactional thing. Were you aware of that?
Yeah.
Or yeah, I guess I'm just curious about this whole transactional word, because I see this a lot in dating and relationships and friendships and even family relationships, and I wonder how you stop it.
Mm. Well, I mean, just with my faith, when I say it was transactional, in the very early stages of my faith, because I turned to my faith and God and praying and all that because I had such a tough year. Like 2016 was such a horrible year. This was when I was really like, I realized like, okay, I think I do want a family. I think I do want to get married. I was 36 in 2016. So I thought, oh, then chop chop. Like, let's get started, Sam. We need to kind of, get the ball rolling here. So
Yeah.
that year I was, like looking to really date and, settle. Basically, I was auditioning husbands, right?
Mm.
How does
And
one audition
all-
husbands?
Yeah.
Paano ba?
like I guess I say that to mean like before, if a guy comes into my life and there's a spark, there's the thing again, there's that spark, then okay, there it is. And then if nothing happens, then okay, whatever. If it comes, kung wala, edi wala. That year, I was like, okay, I really want to I want to do this on purpose, So I was trying to do that, and for the entire year, like everything just kind of fell apart. And at the
Okay.
end, yeah, and like maybe halfway through the year, I was just so heartbroken.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to think like, okay, I think I'm doing something wrong. I'm not sure what it is. And I randomly heard from a cousin of mine who's Catholic. and we don't really like, message back and forth or whatever, but she just popped up out of the blue and she was like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I told her like, I think I really want to settle down, but it's just, this is really hard. And she was like, this is God. Like, he wants you to turn to him. I think he wants you to pray to him. Why don't you give that a shot? And at that point, I was just like, okay, whatever, but what have I got to lose? Right. So halfway through that year, I started praying. Nothing really happened. It was just like a little comfort thing that I had. And things got worse, really, by the end of that year. But I guess what I mean by transactional was what I was praying for at that time was like, God, please, can you make this happen? Please give me this, give me that. Yeah. It wasn't so much like, God, what are you trying to tell me? What am I supposed to learn out of this? Like, it wasn't reflective or, it was really just me asking God for stuff that I wanted. So that's what I mean. Yeah. With the whole transactional thing. But to go back to your question with the relationship, I mean, we had this conversation recently on the podcast, and I think there's nothing wrong with having an objective for your faith. Like, we all do things to get something out of it. And I think with faith too, it's like that. But I think our objectives change. Like, in the beginning for me, it was, I want, this relationship. I want a family, I want this and that. But now it's more like, I want to know God's will for my life. I want to be changed, to a version of myself that is pleasing to him. And of course, as Christians, we believe, the ultimate goal would be heaven and eternal life and things like that. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm still looking to something, but that thing has changed.
Yeah. Did you ask for a husband? Did you pray for a husband?
I did.
Were you specific with your prayer?
Yes. And there was this one guy that I was actually seeing at that time, and things were falling apart so royally. And I could not understand. And I had to turn to God. Like, I did not know what else to do.
Is that I was gonna ask you, Sam, like, when you think things are like falling apart, because you feel like, okay, when you meet someone, they're great, the connection's there, and then suddenly it just falls apart in a blimp, like, just a blink of the eye. And I wonder, and in an instant you can stop talking to this person, you can, a lot of things can happen in an instant. How do you deal with like the waves of emotion into losing someone? Because it does feel like someone died, even if they didn't, if they leave your life. Like, how do you, besides, is it just prayer that kind of got you through it, or were there other things that you did to, I guess, stop the
pain,
the pain, the rolling of emotions, I guess, whatever that is?
I'm trying to think back. No, I did a lot of things, because again, the prayer thing, it didn't really come together for me until the next year. So, for the rest of that year, where I was just kind of desperately, trying to grasp at straws or something and being transactional with God, I was doing a lot of other things, like, talking to friends, go out for a drink. But I don't know. I mean, those things are they're like Band-Aid solutions, they'll make you forget for a little bit. But eventually, like, there's got to be something more solid than that. And I think for me, that was like prayer and trying to learn like what the church teaches on, like, okay, how am I supposed to date? What am I supposed to look for? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's super interesting that people usually pray and pray and pray and pray for something, and they didn't get it. Usually they turn away from prayer. They're like, okay, it didn't work. But you went the opposite side. So what pushed you into that direction instead of just quitting? Okay, this did not work for me.
There's a saying that goes, prayer is not supposed to change God's mind, it's supposed to change you. So I think that's what happened to me. As I was praying, I realized, like, oh, this guy is not a very good guy. I started out praying for, for this guy, like, God, I really want to be with this one. And, as I was praying through
Yeah.
that, I was like, oh, okay, no, he's not the one. And I think I kind of get it. I think I want something else, someone else,
Yeah.
a different kind of relationship. So I was changing through that process gradually, I think is what happened.
Did this guy notice your change? Did he go like, what happened? Or no, he didn't know.
I don't know, because I unfriended him on Facebook at
Okay.
some point,
Okay.
and I'm not on Facebook anymore.
Okay.
I don't know what his social situation is, but he would like sometimes message, and he was so mean. Like he was so mean. But you know how
Wow.
these guys are? Like, you know how sometimes it's like when you're trying to desperately fix the situation and you're the one that's like, humahabol to make
Yeah.
it better and all that, like they want nothing to do with it. And then when you decide, okay, I'm so done with this, they feel it
Yes.
and they come crawling back, right?
Yes.
So I
We
think there,
yeah. I
yeah,
totally
go
get
ahead.
that.
I
We
love
have a
that guys really
question.
sense these things.
Hmm.
They really do. They have a good detector for when you hands
Yeah.
off,
You
hands
remember
on.
there was this other guy that one of the not so great virtual romances I had. He was such a douche, and then I was like, I am done. I am over this. So suddenly he's like texting all the time, trying to call. I'm like, ayoko na, tililing ka, I'm out. But Sam, we do have a
Yes.
question from our audience.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
This question
Ian.
is for Sam. When you started praying for guidance and for a husband, did you do that before or after you decided to freeze your eggs?
So I froze my eggs the same year actually. So as I was starting to date this guy is when I was starting to freeze my eggs at the same time as well.
Hmm.
Um so the praying was definitely already happening because here's the thing, I wasn't aware of the Catholic Church teaching on egg freezing. And it took me a while. Like it took me a couple of years after I froze my eggs that I realized, oh my gosh, the church teaches against this. What? And
Yeah.
then I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
So yes, I was praying already.
So speaking of egg freezing and changing your position, let's jump to that topic. So what
Mhm.
pushed you to freeze your eggs the first time? Because truthfully, you were one of the first that I've read actually here in the Philippines about egg freezing, and that's when I started researching about it in 2016. So
Mhm.
what pushed you?
I had a friend who is my age, and because we were both single, we would talk about this once in a while. Like we knew that it was a thing. We didn't really know people who had done it, but yeah, we knew that there was a procedure out there, that this was an option for us. But and then I think as my 2016 turned into a crap storm, I was like, okay, maybe I should really look into this. So I went to the clinic and I did a consultation, and then and there, like we got started, like
Mhm.
Wow.
during the consultation itself. Yeah. So
Ah.
yeah, it was really more like, okay, I need, like, it was a plan B. It was one of those.
How did you feel after it, and how did people react to it? Because it was so early then, and I know we'll talk a little bit later about the change and the teaching of the church. But I mean, in that instant, like after you started the process, how did you feel after that?
Like physically,
Yeah, physically,
emotionally.
emotionally.
Or emotionally?
I
Yeah.
heard there's craziness with emotions, and like people start crying and all that.
Yeah, physically, I'm from what I hear, like the side effects are like all over the place. I've heard some people like, yeah, they were super emotional and the procedure itself really hurt. My friend that I just talked about, who I would talk to about this, also eventually had it done, and she had like the worst like rashes, and she was itching all over, all night. I don't know, weird side effects. I didn't have any of those. I also wasn't particularly emotional because of the hormone shots or anything like that. My experience of it was pretty smooth.
Okay.
Even the extraction process itself, like it wasn't really like painful or anything.
Yeah.
And then after the procedure, I guess you feel a little sore. but nothing that I would describe as like pain.
But
Uncomfortable.
did you feel like there was a weight off your shoulders though when you did do it? Like you're like, oh, okay, there, stored them. I
Yeah,
feel calm.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I did. It was like a reassuring. Okay, there, got my plan B. Although the doctor was very clear that, of course, there's no guarantee
Yeah.
that, these eggs would lead to children, but at least you have the option. And that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah. And then people's reactions when you told them, like your parents and your friends and just people, that were close to you.
My parents were kind of, because I don't think they were aware of church teaching either. But
Yeah.
and I didn't really consult them about it or anything. Like, I was 36. Like, I'm a big girl. It wasn't something that I like needed to ask permission or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just told them like, hey, I looked into this and I think I'd like to do this. And I think for the most part, they were just amused by it.
Yeah.
For the most part, my friends were excited for me, I suppose. Like, they were happy. I don't know if I had friends who, religious friends at the time who maybe inside were like, hala, bawal kaya yan, or whatever. But I mean, I didn't hear from them. So
Yeah. You didn't get any backlash. I mean, given that you were like, you're in public, a lot of people like watch or listen to you. Did anyone like message you and be like, why would you play God? Or, but how people react, like, just do it the natural way, like, those things.
You know what? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I heard from a lot of women who were like, oh, I didn't know this procedure was available. Ooh, where did you get it done? Or thank you for, because I did a blog post about it, which of course I'm not very proud of now because I've changed my stance on it. But they were thankful for the information and, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So speaking of changing your stance, you changed your mind about freezing your eggs. How long? I mean, it must have been a tough process to accept the teaching of the church about it. Where you're like, do I wanna follow and really thaw?
Yeah, because some people, they do like they say like, oh, you could do selective faith, but
Yeah.
to me that sounds weird. I think you're either all in or
I mean, because technically, I'm very Catholic, but there are certain things that I'm like, that part's not for me. Like, I can't really remember the last time I've done confession because I just never felt comfortable doing it. But everything else, I do pretty much follow. So, how about you?
You know what? Yeah, because like I said earlier, even as I was coming to the faith, I wasn't aware of what the church taught on this. And it was, how did I find out about it? I don't remember the moment, like the exact moment I figured it out, but it took me a couple of years. And so, I feel like maybe if I came into the faith and that's the first thing that I learned, like, oh my gosh, IVF is not allowed, maybe I would have backed out.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I'm not sure if this is for me, guys. Like, but it took me a while. And so I think by the time I found out, I had enough, like I had built up enough of a faith life and a relationship with God to kind of take it in stride. And it's funny that you mentioned confession because I felt the need to go to confession, not knowing what I was going to do about it, but I felt the need to go to confession. So I did. And I remember telling the priest, like, this is what I did, but here's the thing. I'm not ready to toss them yet. Is that okay? And he was like, yes, it's okay. It's kind of like when you have to forgive somebody, but sometimes you can't do it in that instant. And so you need to kind of take your time with it a little bit, process things and yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay, but I just needed that off my chest. And now I'm going to pray to God about, okay, what do you want me to do about this? Just give me the grace to do what I need to do. And eventually I came to peace with that decision.
Wow.
What did the priest tell you? I think like I heard that you just had to pray one Our Father, but is that
Penance.
I don't even remember.
I remember going to
oh no.
confession in high school or grade school, and I was like so nervous. Like I was like, I'm gonna burn in that room for sure. Like I am gonna burn, and he's gonna know when I come in that room that I have so much things to tell him that we'll have the full day in here. No one will get a chance to do it. I would go to the last. I would be like, kayo na mauna, you first.
Kasi pagod na yung priest to even listen to what you have to say.
No.
Yeah.
No, what's this? Actually, I don't remember what my penance was for that particular confession, but the One Our Father confession was the first one I did as I came to the faith and realized I need to go to confession. Like after not having practiced for the longest time, you know, like a general confession, like a real look back in my
Laundry
life.
list, a full
Yes, yes,
Yellow
that
pad, yeah.
confession. Yeah, and so yeah, I was expecting like I don't know, pray 10 rosaries or something like something super intense like that. But I went in there, confessed all the things that I could think of, and he told me to pray One Our Father, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a walk in the park for God to forgive our sins. All he wants is for us to come to him and ask for forgiveness because it's so easy for him.
Yeah.
You know, all he wants is for us to repent. That was my takeaway from that.
That's a good takeaway from that.
Yeah.
Because I would just think, kasi kulang, Father. More. But yeah, but that's a great way of looking at it.
But I
like
think
that.
we're harder on ourselves than
Yeah.
than anyone else. Like we're so critical when when you say that like God is forgiving, or other people, even the ones that love us a lot, they're actually really forgiving. It's just that we make it worse in our head sometimes. I'm curious,
Yeah.
Sam. When you decided to finally like thaw your eggs, did you feel fear? Because like it is an investment for some people, and I'm sure you like it's time, energy, money, and or were you just like, okay, this is just something I have to do, or did you feel like, am I gonna regret this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I realized like, okay, this is what I have to do, actually did it, and then never thought of it again. That was not the experience. There were moments after that where I was like, gosh, I did the right thing, right? I did. Just like I would have brief moments like that, but
Yeah.
overall, yeah, it was definitely a feeling of more like, yes, I'm glad I did that. I'd really rather be aligned more with like what God would want me to do on these things. So overall it was more peaceful, but I definitely had those moments. Yes.
Yeah, because it's like one of those things. The worst thing is to just kind of like put one foot and the other to the other and be like, oh, did I
Right.
regret? Did I? Oh, it's like you constantly have to keep asking yourself. Sometimes with little things, like I'll talk to Shari. It's like, tama ba to? Tama ba to? Like, did I do the right thing?
So how did you calm yourself, Sam, with the whole, okay, this was the right decision?
I think you just really have to think back to the reasons why the church teaches on this. And maybe basically just refresh your memory on what convinced you in the first place that yes, this makes sense to me. This is why I'm going to do this. Like I get it. And not be swayed maybe by like what the world teaches. Oh my gosh, does that sound like what the world? But like you know what I mean? Yeah, remind myself of the understanding and how it's logical to me.
For people that are listening and like they don't really, I mean, I know a few people would be listening to this and are Catholic, but maybe you could, because like Sam, what I like about how you talk about his faith, it's very, would you say it's very modern or applicable now? And I think sometimes people don't know the entire thing, or they just like stick to what is taught to them, what they hear at church and mass. They don't, they don't go research. They don't go to YouTube University to check what is being said. For people that don't know, what is actually the teaching on egg freezing at the moment, or
Right. And yes, I agree. I think when I also first started learning about this, I was like, how come they don't talk about this, during the homily? They should tell me this stuff, you know? Um, but, and I'm not here to, you know, cite verses from the catechism or like tell you, you know, reference the papal encyclical and whatever. Like, I am still, you know, very much like learning about this and journeying through the faith. I'm not an authority on this stuff, but what I understood and what made sense to me, coming to the faith meant basically that I acknowledged a creator, that there was a God who is a creator and created everything, the world, the universe, you and me, and that this creator is an intelligent being who had a purpose and a design for everything to work. And so, I mean, when you just look at our bodies, you know, it is such an intricate system of how everything works. And so when it comes to something like this, the church teaching is that there is a particular purpose for sex. It is for the union of the spouses and for procreation. It is not a coincidence that when a man and a woman have intercourse, the result is a baby. That is the purpose for sex, right? So in the case of something like IVF, you would now take away the result of this act away from the act. You know? So that's something now that strays from what God intended for sex to be, for what children to be. That made sense to me. Another thing that bothered me was in the procedure of IVF, my understanding is that they will fertilize like not one, but a handful of eggs because they just don't know which one is going to stick, whatever the term is, whatever the scientific term is. So they end up fertilizing a bunch and then injecting it to the woman and see how it pans out. And, you know, we believe that life begins at conception. A newborn baby that has been carried to full term is a 9-month-old human being. So we can date that back to, you know, when this human life was a second old. And that is the moment of conception, right? So if I were to take this thing, you know, do the IVF procedure, have these fertilized eggs inside me, and in the process maybe lose 3-4 fertilized eggs, which according to my belief are already the beginnings of human life, in order to have a child, like that was so ironic to me. So I was willing to sacrifice those human lives to get a human life. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
This is
So
actually one
those
of
things,
the go on, sorry.
yeah. So those things are the one, you know, what lined up for me. And again, it made sense. And I think I was able to come to that decision and agree that yes, church teaching on this, I think is right.
I think that's one of the things a lot of the women would tell us is that the hardest thing about it is that seeing that not all of the eggs survive, and it's an emotional. Besides being at a church teaching and all you shared with us, it's also an emotional toll for some women to be seeing that, because as when you're pregnant, you don't really see that, but this one, like they know, oh, you put 2 eggs or however people choose to put in them, and then they won't all survive. It's like, oh, it's kind of scary that you can see that, but it's interesting that you shared that.
We have another question. It's from my sister. Hi, Nuchi.
Oh,
Did you regret
hi, Nuchi.
freezing? Did you regret freezing your eggs in any way since you decided to toss them, or do you take it as part of God's plan and journey for you?
Gosh, God's plan and journey for me. You know, so ever since I decided to do this religious podcast of mine, we've been having a lot of discussions on sin and what God's will is and the Bible and just, you know, everything that's faith related, right? And one of the things that I learned is that, you know, all of the things in our lives that cause grief or suffering or pain or whatever, this is not from God. You know, as Christians, we believe in spiritual warfare. There are evil forces that are also working to make you stray from God, you know. So these things that cause us pain, suffering, this is from the enemy. However, God can use those things to work in our lives, to make us turn to him. But are they from God? They're not. I think is one of the biggest things that I learned on my podcast. So is it God's plan or journey? I don't think he was like he planned that out for me, because free will too, right? That is the
Right.
biggest gift. I get to decide. God doesn't have my life planned out for me. He has given me intelligence. I can, knowledge. I can decide on these things on my own. And so I decided those things, but I think God definitely used all my mistakes and all of the heartbreak of 2016 and all the mistakes that I made to make me realize that, oh my goodness, I need someone up there. I need God. So what is his heart? What is his plan? Because I don't
Yeah.
think that was his plan. Do I regret freezing my eggs? Um, I do, in that I I think my biggest regret was freezing the eggs and being so public about it, because I think I then contributed to informing more women about this procedure, because now I don't agree with it. And uh I was very sorry that I did that. And oh my, this is a pretty interesting thing that happened. And so I was kind of sitting with this, and this is after the whole confession bit. So I had gotten it off my chest, and I had decided that I was going to toss them and everything, but I knew that I just felt like it wasn't enough, because I had done that. I had talked about it. I had informed other people about it. And I felt like, how do I atone for this? Like, how do I make up for this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I guess, in this day and age, what you do is you put an Instagram post up or something saying, this is what's up. I'm sorry I did this, and this is not how I feel about it anymore, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I got a random message on my Instagram, and she was a reporter, and she asked me if I wanted to talk about this egg freezing thing that I did. And I told her, oh, you know what? Yeah, I did that, but I've changed my mind and I decided not to use them anymore. And she goes, oh, great. I think that would be an interesting angle too. Like, would you be willing to talk about it? And she wrote about this in the Inquirer, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so that for me was the atoning thing, where I was thinking, I'll just do an Instagram post, but I felt like God was telling me, well, here, why don't you do it on a broadsheet? And so that
So
was
interesting.
the interview that I did, where I got to publicly say, I don't believe in this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that
you
was-
felt atoned, for sure.
I don't know if I completely atoned for it, but I felt like that was the first step.
Hmm. Okay. But if you would give advice to women, I mean, Bea and I were 31, and the fear is there. I mean, whether or not I don't know, decide to freeze my eggs or not. Like, how do you cope with the fear? What's your advice to women our age or
For the
greater who is
biological
just
clock.
scared of our biological clocks running out?
Gosh, I mean, like I said, like I don't feel like I'm an expert at this. I just have my experience and what I've decided to do with that situation. When I was 36 and prior to coming to the faith, and I was at that state of like, I really want to start a family. I need to look for someone to do that with, blah, blah, blah. If someone had told me, why did you look for God? Why did you pray about it? It would have been like, whatever. Oh my gosh, this annoying religious person. you know, um, like that had to be my own decision, and I had to find my way to that.
Mhm.
And and although the journey that I had was, through the faith, I don't know if that's what I would say, honestly. And if like,
Yeah.
I mean, how would you guys feel like if I said, guys, just pray about it, okay?
We've been
You know what I mean?
though. You know what I love, Sam? When we get these like miracle stories, like I
Yeah.
think we had Divinely was one where she shared that she prayed for a prince, a French guy, and one more thing, Sherry. There was three,
Um,
right?
a prince, French, and not from Manila.
Oh yes, and she got
Oh,
that, but not exactly in the way that she wanted it to be because she was praying for it in Paris. She
Yes.
got someone
okay.
from Cebu. She got someone who had a
French somewhere
business
in there. Yeah.
French descent, and then their business was started with the word prince. So, and then we had
Oh, that's so funny.
my cousin who
Yeah.
found her partner in church, Favor, and she prayed for it like she hated him, and then eventually like one day they
Oh,
were overwhelmed with like emotions that they had to be married together. It was bizarre, but I guess, I know you said you're not an expert at this, but sometimes, when people have such strong faith, it gives me hope that I don't know, there's a plan out there laid out if you're willing
oh,
to really
Yeah.
listen.
And do you think, Sam, do you agree? Because some people tell us we get a lot of advice about finding the one, right? Finding love. One is a good partner is somebody that you pray for. One is you don't look and it will come. Do you think that we should be praying for a good partner or just
do,
chill?
do you still pray for it? Like, I just wonder.
you know, I absolutely would pray for it. But here's the thing: like, I think I'm just at a point in my faith life now where I just want what God wants for me, because I
Yeah.
trust that whatever God wants for me is the best, like better than anything that I can think of, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know about the whole just don't look for it and it'll come. I mean, does it always pan out like that? I'm not sure. But yeah, I pray for it. Yes,
Okay, you
of
pray for it.
course.
Okay, because like I'm just wondering if people, it's something we should pray for. Because I've heard people like write on a notebook, and then you have to sleep on the notebook. All sorts of crazy things, like wear crystals and prayers also, and offering things as
Hmm,
many things. Even with fertility, you have a lot of those traditions, and I guess what people go through to just make sure
right.
that they have like a family, have a husband, have a child. It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess I just feel like, whatever it is that you want, God can see your heart. He knows what you desire, and he can make all of it happen.
Mm.
That's peanuts to him. He's God. It's all in the palm of his hand. And I think what he wants most of all is just to be acknowledged. I mean, I want to give all these things to you. I can give these things to you, but I guess as God, like he would want us to know that it's from him too.
Yeah.
And that's fair, I think. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sometimes it takes us a while to get there. Like I took so long.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Yeah, I would pray about everything, I think.
Have you met guys that were like, oh, they were open to it, and then you realize they weren't to your faith?
Open to what?
Like faith, and you know how sometimes you go on a date and you go, oh, I'm a practicing Catholic, and they
Uh-huh.
say, oh, that's
Uh-huh.
great, but then you can tell that they don't really agree with that.
I'm
For example,
sure I'm
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. For example.
For example, like I've met someone who did pretend to go to mass with me, and then later on you
But
realize
then,
yeah, they pretended. They basically said that they would go to mass, and then they don't. They don't. Wala lang. And then
There
later
was
on
a
they change.
Yeah, I think maybe like they will pretend like they're interested, but then you can clearly tell later that they're not very serious about it. Like I remember this one guy, um, but then maybe it was my fault. Like I was so intense about it. Like on our first date, let's start it with mass.
Oh wow.
he said,
No, it was me. I was like, let me go to
Nice.
"Oh,
mass and then go to dinner. Because
Wow,
it was a
that's a good
Sunday. Like
one.
we were gonna see each other on a Sunday, and I was like, oh, can we go to mass and then let's go to dinner? And I thought that was like a really cute thing that I could do. But maybe it was a bit too intense for him. But like he was down, whatever. So we did that, and then had a nice time. And I was gonna see him again, And I thought he was in the faith because like he really liked talking about Bible. But then our next exchange, he was like telling me how horny he was or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, not a match.
You know what? It just shows you men will. Mo was on our show and he said men will do anything.
Yeah,
Anything.
Right? Yeah.
he would
Yeah,
sit through an hour-long church session
Exactly.
to get into. Oh
Right.
gosh, men.
Wow, men talaga. But there's some good ones. I believe
I'm
that
sure.
somewhere
I,
out there.
I like. I thought it was his move that he asked, "Let's go to church first," and then bigla, I'm horny. Like, oh my gosh, we said,
That would have been a better story.
I wouldn't be surprised though if
Wow.
that has happened. I would not be surprised.
Oh my god. I did meet a friend. Okay, my friend told me that he went to Bible study because he's like, this is the last resort to find a good woman. I was like, oh, I tama naman, but you know, a bit extreme to really have that intention to go to Bible study to find a
Right.
yeah.
But hitting two birds with one stone, I guess. I mean, I think there is some logic to that in that if you're looking for a particular kind of person, you have to go where they're hanging out, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah, I guess if you want a godly person, then go check out a Bible study, I guess. But maybe want to do the Bible study first, and then maybe the girl can be a bonus. I don't know. I don't know.
I like that.
I mean, I think it's just like the whole or advice way about going to Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Like virtual. What do you call those things? Workshops. At least you're, your same interest. Bible
Yeah.
study, same interest. So that's a check off the list already. So Sam, we are down to our last
Yeah.
question, and this is Bea's
Oh,
favorite
already.
question. So Bea,
Mm.
take it away.
What is love? Yeah.
Oh my,
Just a simple
oh. You know, I heard this great quote, and I don't know who said it, but I think, yeah, before it would always be like romantic love, how to define some, really catchy phrase about what love is and whatever.
Mm.
But I think just to wrap things up and put a nice ribbon on this whole faith thing,
Yeah.
I think love is willing salvation for somebody, ultimately.
What is it? Sorry. Love is salvation.
Willing
Willing
salvation,
salvation
for
from
somebody.
That is very
Yeah.
nice. I do like the word salvation. I've always when they're teaching us the Bible and all that, it was always a word that came up, and I thought, wow, and
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, for me, again, I'm still very much journeying in the faith. And I think one of the things that I realized in the last year and a half or something was that I think the Bible was something that was very much missing in my faith life, because I started out with the whole prayer thing. I was going through the gestures of it, going to mass, confession, all wonderful things.
Yeah.
But hey, there's also that thing, the Bible, which is, God's word. And that's something that I'm really like getting into right now. So yeah, absolutely.
How did you start getting to it? How do you simplify it? I mean, the Bible is pretty intense when you just pick it up and just start from the very beginning,
thick.
right?
It's thick. It's long. There's
It's
so
no
many
letters. Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So how do you start? Do you do an app or something?
No, I actually attend the Bible class. And, recently on my podcast, Baron Geisler was on, and we were talking about his faith journey. And he was talking about, because he's also really deep into Bible. He's doing like 4 different Bible classes right now. And he said that the Bible is really not a book that you can understand on your own. And you really need it's a dangerous book to really try and understand on your own, because there are many ways to interpret it. And so you need to find someone who can guide you through it. So I would read it, maybe something like Proverbs or, Psalms, like just verses that can kind of inspire me or set the tone for the day. But to just understand the whole book, I think a Bible class is the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think it's important that whoever, I mean, this is an obvious question. Would you like to share a Bible study with your future partner, or would you like to have separate Bible studies? Because sometimes like some couples, they don't like to work out together. I'm just wondering, with Bible study, do you prefer to do it together or separately and then share your your
Findings.
your thoughts about it after.
Oh my gosh, I would love to do a Bible study with somebody. I find that so romantic. Oh my god.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is the kind of thing that excites me now. Like, do you understand where I am with the whole what I'm looking for?
Yeah. No, I mean it's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
I mean,
I
on
think
the list
about
of things na I pray for also is yung nagsisimba yung lalaki para sabay ko magsisimba sa Sunday. That's on my list.
Yeah,
Sana.
you
I feel
know,
like that's one of
and
the
I think
cutest things.
and you know, I think it's also really important for the man to take the lead in things like this.
Ay,
It's
tama
yes,
yan.
it's oh, parang, di ba, not even in like a religious situation, but just like in general, you want a man who's like
Yes.
strong enough and knows what
Yes.
he's doing and will lead you, you know?
Mm.
So absolutely also in the faith. And when I think about it in a family context, it's like you're the man of the house, you're the head of the household. We need you to guide us. So yeah.
Oh, I mean, I agree with this. I second that. I third that.
Obviously.
Men, please take notes later.
Take lead. Take lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, wow. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
you go ahead.
Sam. Oh, I'm
no,
just
I
stunned.
think I think I just want to add something, like, because I think we're close to wrapping.
Mhm.
You know, because you guys have done this egg freezing series, and obviously many women have decided differently than I have,
Yeah.
and I guess I just don't want all of this to come off as like you're doing the wrong thing, girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I had my journey with it, and this is where I am about it. When I reversed my position on this and also posted about that, you know, I also heard from some women asking, well, you know, if this is against God's design, then why does he allow children to be born through this procedure? Which is a valid question.
Mm.
And I think, you know, because God is love, like, you know, sometimes he will allow those things because he has a plan for love. And so I guess I just want all of this to end on a note of just, you know, he's our father. He loves us, I think, more than we can imagine. You know, his mercy is scandalous, and
Mm.
we're all journeying through this. And I guess I just don't want it. I just don't want them to feel like, oh well, now I've done this thing, and well, that's, you know, that's the end for me. I don't know how this, you know, what is the mathematics for mercy and compassion, you know? And our lives are all different. And yeah, I mean, I just felt like I needed to put that out there. And I do not condemn these women. And I do not, you know, I'm not in a position of like, you know, wagging my finger like, oh, that's not church teaching. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's good, Sam, that you share that with us because, like, again, it's like you could be in different stages of your life. Like, you could have found faith in like when you were 5 years old, or you could have found it when you're 50. And it's like really to each its own, and depending on whatever journey people are on. And yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, it was important for us to kind of see different ones because like Shari and I are trying to figure it out too. Like it's not like we go, oh, just egg freezing, go for science. It's really this show has showed us like there is a lot of faith involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science involved. There's a lot about kindness. So many things that happen in one's love life and relationship life, right?
Or
So,
life
I mean,
life.
obviously,
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I mean, obviously, like, I wouldn't encourage it because, you know, my position on this is clear. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, the judgment is not from me, and I don't know what, you know, God will do in all of these people's lives. And this is my journey. Everyone has their journey, and you know,
Yeah.
we're all, the teaching is to love one another, and so, you know, I'm in no position to judge.
I appreciate that a lot. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much judgment there, especially with social media and all this internet. It's so easy. Whether someone's not breastfeeding and they're using, manufactured milk, it's like, just give it a break. People are
Right.
having a hard time nowadays. So whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to
So
stop judging you, Bea. It's hard, but I
thank
will
you
try.
so much. I hope you learned a lot. So, with that, in the end, before we really wrap up, we do takeaways because we really love learning from people that guest on our show. And Sam, it's, I'm currently agnostic, but it's been kind of a challenging time. And I've always dabbled on thinking, is there faith or not? Or, I mean, my biggest question is really about priests, but we can talk about this backstage. But I guess, like, Shari, what did you learn besides stop judging me and being kind to me and loving me for all that I am?
I just said stop judging. And I mo lang in. No. What did I learn today? I think what I learned the most today is just like hearing both sides is always very, very important.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's like it's hard because I feel like I learned a lot today. A lot
Yeah.
about being well informed is one. Like what Sam said, she made a decision before, went into the faith, and didn't really decide until or learn about it until later on. So I think just trusting your own process is what I've been getting. Like one day you'll figure it out little by little, and then towards the end of it, um, I swear I'm just so confused. Like not confused, but I'm so
Are you
confused as
not?
to what my sentence will be. But essentially, my point is that
Are you
you will get
confused on
there.
being kind to me?
No, more that you will get there. Life is a journey. You can choose
Yeah.
to do this and that in the past, and then change your mind in the future, and then you'll just get there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just you will get there.
Yeah,
I think
you
you're
know when
still
I
praying for something, Shari.
Yeah, you know, when I was in the faith already and identifying as a practicing Catholic, like I and not aware of the IVF teaching,
Mhm.
I had friends around me who were religious and knew of the teaching, but they didn't like shove it in my face, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So they just kind of gave me, my space and my time, for God to work. And
Mhm.
eventually I came to that place and I only heard about them, kind of wondering like, oh, I wonder if Sam knows and blah, 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 after, I had made that decision. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You,
And I think it's also important when you do have opposing opinions, never being preachy. Being preachy towards
mm,
people will never get you anywhere. I think that's also an
mm,
important takeaway. People go
I
like,
agree.
magdasal ka. You're like, oh, never. That's like usually your go-to.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that about the new generation of Catholics, or like whatever your religion is. They're not as preachy as probably the older generation, where it's like, you must go to Mass every Sunday. You must confess at this time. Like nowadays, it's really like they really try to understand the Word of God in a way that applies to the days today. Like
Yeah.
obviously, egg freezing is not in the Bible.
No.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
That.
Bea, how about you? What did you learn? You may be more eloquent than what I just said because I have just jumbled up in my head because there's so much.
You know what? I'm always stumped with religion because it's something I've always like. I don't know. I've been challenged by it. I guess from the rebellious stage to the stage of like just trying to find your spirituality and faith. And I think the last 1 year and a half, it pays to update your faith. I
Mm.
mean, it sounds so like updating a software, but like I think it's
Mhm.
important to know what's out there and then choosing committing to it when you're ready. I think that's good, and always be kind. I think that's important. No matter what religion you are, like obviously religion can cause wars or they can cause like operation. I think just be kind. Like that's such a common thing in all religion,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
Agreed.
My gosh. Like I had a moment when you said operating system because I think religion is kind of like an operating system, you know?
There you go.
Yeah, wow. That was a good one, Bea.
Thank you.
And
Good
I
My
think
job.
dad will be proud.
and,
He's been telling me to pray.
and I think it's good that you admit that you're challenged by this, like you do not understand this. And I think it's good to question things. And
Yeah,
things need to make sense to you in
yeah.
order for you to believe and actually practice that stuff. And like just going through the motions without really understanding, like I don't think that's what God wants for us either.
Yeah.
So I think that the podcast for me helps just conversing about these things. So
Mm. It's a good form, or like a good platform, really.
Right. Exactly.
Mm.
So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Sam O. So if people want to
yay!
hear more about you or talk to you, how should they reach you?
Well, I am on Instagram. It's the only social media that I do at I am Sam O, and I do a podcast. It's called the Narrow Door Podcast, which is on YouTube and on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast. So there.
I
Thank
love it,
you.
by the way. It's a fun, like, it's edited really
Well,
great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you guys too. Like you guys have a countdown and everything. I was like, whoa.
We gotta
we're
keep
high,
it
we're
thirsty.
high tech. We're high tech.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for having me, girls. I had so much
Yeah,
fun.
we had so
Thank
much
you.
fun too.
So everyone else that's listened, thank you so much. So let us quench your thirst for knowledge by subscribing to our YouTube channel and submit your love problems. I think that's so important. And milestones, not just your failures. We want to hear about the success on our
Mhm.
website, thirstyand30.club, so you don't miss a beat. And then we have a weekly newsletter called Smarter Love by Thirsty and 30. So tomorrow, I think I'll focus on faith and prayer, and I'm not sure yet. We'll figure it out after this. But
We're
it's
gonna
really,
rewatch this
yeah,
episode.
yeah. It's a guide for really modern day woman who wants to be smarter, saner, and of course more faithful. Or practice their faith in the best way and stay thirsty. I think
Stay
always
thirsty, everybody.
Stay thirsty.
The person I messaged about the giveaway, send us a message on IG. Okay. Stay thirsty,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thirsty and 30.